I am Owen Adams, 29 years old, and my life revolves around endless long shifts at my family's modest diner in Santa Monica. It's a small place tucked away by the beach where the smell of grilled fish and the sound of crashing waves blend with the chatter and laughter of customers. I've been working here since I was a kid, learning to carry plates before I could properly read books. My parents, Dennis and Claire, always say it's the family legacy, but to me it feels like an endless loop with no escape. Wake up early, wipe down tables and chairs, greet customers, serve, clean up, and repeat. No days off, no breaks. My hands are calloused from holding trays, my back aches from standing for 12 hours straight. But I'm used to it. Used to the frantic rhythm, the fake smiles for customers, and hiding exhaustion behind a professional facade. That day was a scorching afternoon with salty sea breeze blowing through the open windows. The diner was packed as usual, tourist families, dating couples, and a few regulars. I was carrying a tray loaded with burgers and fries to table 7, trying to dodge a kid darting through the aisle. "Watch out or you'll drop it, kid," I said with a smile. But in my head, I was calculating how much longer my shift would last. The kitchen was noisy. My dad was yelling at the assistant chef for burning a steak while my mom sat at the register, frowning as always. Ordinary life, nothing special. Until the sound of car engines outside. I heard it before I saw it. The powerful roar of engines, not the usual delivery trucks or cheap tourist cars. I looked up through the window and my heart skipped a beat. A convoy of gleaming black Mercedes, at least 3, pulled up abruptly right in front of the diner. They shimmered in the sun like something out of a Hollywood movie. Customers inside started whispering. Some stopped eating to stare outside. The staff froze, trays in hand, forgetting what to do. "What the hell is going on?" I muttered under my breath, trying not to drop the tray. The doors opened and several bodyguards stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, in black suits and sunglasses, looking like action movie characters. They scanned the surroundings, clearing the way professionally, as if protecting a president. My heart raced faster. Santa Monica sees plenty of rich people, but this was excessive. Then the old man emerged from the middle car. He was elderly, probably over 70, but his demeanor was eerily calm. Dressed impeccably. A perfectly tailored gray suit, silk tie, polished leather shoes. His face was wrinkled but sharp, with deep blue eyes like the ocean radiating a power I'd never encountered. He walked into the diner and the air seemed to freeze. Everyone fell silent, only the background music echoing. The old man looked around, then pointed to a corner table by the window overlooking the sea. "I want this table. Private service." His voice low and authoritative. Not a request, but a command. My dad, usually grumpy, suddenly became unusually polite. "Yes, sir. Owen, you serve this customer." He pushed me forward, eyes gleaming with hope. I knew why. This was a rare big spender. Our diner rarely got people like this. I took a deep breath, wiped my hands on my apron, and approached with my most professional smile. "Hello, sir. I'm Owen. What can I get you?" I tried to keep my voice steady, but my heart was pounding. The old man looked at me, his eyes piercing, and nodded slightly. "A Caesar salad, medium rare steak, and mineral water." Throughout the meal, he ate slowly, savoring each bite as if it were a masterpiece. But what unsettled me was that he kept observing me. Not sneakily, but openly and subtly. When I served other tables, he watched how I interacted with customers, how I dodged spills, how I handled pressure in the busy diner. At one point, a difficult customer yelled at me because the food wasn't cooked right. I stayed calm, apologized, and replaced it. The old man nodded faintly as if mentally noting it. I felt like I was being tested like a lab rat. "Who is he?" I wondered, sweat beading on my forehead. Outside, the bodyguards stood watch, keeping anyone from approaching the cars. The diner's atmosphere was tense. People whispered about him. Maybe some billionaire? Or a movie star? But I focused on work, trying not to show curiosity. Finally, he finished, wiped his mouth with the napkin, and called for the check. I approached, heart racing. Other tables and staff watched eagerly. Everyone thought, big tip incoming. With a customer like this, at least a few $100s. I handed the bill. The old man took out a leather wallet and paid exactly the amount, No more, no less. But no tip, not a cent. The diner's mood deflated instantly. Whispers spread. How could that be? So stingy. I was momentarily surprised, a wave of disappointment passing through, but I swallowed it. Couldn't show it. Thank you, sir. Have a good day. I bowed politely, voice still warm. The old man looked at me, nodded slightly, and I caught a fleeting smile. Satisfied? Then he left. Bodyguards opened doors and the convoy drove off into the distance. The diner returned to normal, but people kept talking. My dad shook his head. What a cheapskate. My mom counted the money, still frowning. I went back to clearing the table, trying to forget. Wiping it down, stacking plates, then suddenly I noticed under the main plate a small folded note. My heart skipped a beat. It hadn't been there before. I picked it up and unfolded it. Contents, an address in Beverly Hills, time, 7 p.m. next Wednesday. And a short sentence. Come here if you're ready to change your life. No signature, no explanation. I stood frozen for a few seconds, hands trembling. It felt like my familiar life had just been touched by something vast and mysterious. Who was he? Was this meant for me? Anticipation surged, mixed with fear. I slipped the note into my pocket, looking out at the sea where the sun was setting. My life, perhaps, was about to change forever. The days that followed passed like a confused nightmare. I continued working at the diner, carrying trays, cleaning up, smiling and chatting with customers as if nothing had happened. But in my mind, that note haunted me. Every evening when I got home, I took it out and stared at the address. 1024 Wilshire Boulevard, Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills, the land of celebrities, millionaires, and mansions I'd only seen on TV. Me, a waiter at a modest Santa Monica diner, what chance did I have of stepping into that world? I asked myself hundreds of times. Was this a prank? A trap? Was the old man mafia, or just an eccentric rich guy? Curiosity gnawed at me, but caution was just as strong. I'd heard stories of scammers promising jobs, then kidnapping people or worse. I wasn't the risk-taking type. My life was safe, even if boring. But the words "change your life" kept echoing. Change how? For the better or worse? I lost sleep for several nights. Lying on my old creaky bed, listening to cars outside, I imagined all sorts of things. Maybe he saw how well I served and wanted to give a bigger tip, or mistook me for someone else. I told the story to Evan, my only close friend from high school. We met at a beachside cafe. I leaned in, speaking low as if afraid someone might overhear. Evan laughed, patted my shoulder lightly, and said to just give it a try. Nothing to lose, maybe a rare opportunity. But his eyes couldn't hide the worry, and he added that if anything felt off, I should call him immediately. That only made me more hesitant. As for my parents, I didn't tell them anything. I knew they'd just call it daydreaming and order me back to the diner as usual. Their lives revolved only around the restaurant, money, and endless responsibilities. I didn't want to worry them, nor hear their familiar discouraging words. The closer it got to Wednesday, the more my heart raced. Tuesday morning, I decided. I wouldn't go. Too risky. I threw the note in the trash, telling myself to forget it. But that night, lying awake, I thought about my life again. 29 years old, still at the family diner, earning just enough to get by, no future. No girlfriend, no hobbies, just work. The old man, whoever he was, had chosen me. And I wondered, why not try once? I got up clumsily, rummaged through the trash, retrieved the note, and carefully wiped it clean, as if afraid to lose that fragile chance. Wednesday morning, I asked to leave early for the first time in my life. My parents were annoyed, but I didn't explain. I hired a cheap taxi, wore my best clothes, a white shirt and dress pants, and told the driver to take me to the address on the note. The journey took nearly an hour, from Santa Monica through the crowded streets of Los Angeles, then turning into Beverly Hills. The farther we went, the more the scenery changed. Modest shops gave way to lavish villas, lush tree-lined streets, and luxury cars parked everywhere. My heart pounded. Sweat broke out despite the cool car air conditioning. The driver glanced back at me suspiciously, reminding me this was an area for the wealthy, as if confirming one last time. I just nodded, though inside I was reeling, feeling like I was stepping into a completely alien world. The car stopped in front of a tall iron gate, behind which sprawled an enormous mansion. It wasn't a house, it was a palace. White walls, manicured gardens, a sparkling pool under the late afternoon light. Security was tight, cameras everywhere, several bodyguards on duty with earpieces. I was overwhelmed. This exceeded all imagination. My hands were ice cold as I got out, paid, and approached the gate. "Hello, I'm Owen Adams. I have an appointment," I said to the burly bodyguard, my voice stuttering. He looked me up and down, then checked a list on his tablet. "Yes, Mr. Adams. Please come in." No waiting, no further questions. The gate opened and a uniformed staff member led me through the garden, the faint scent of roses, the sound of water from a fountain. I walked as if in a dream, legs heavy. What am I doing here? I thought, but it was too late to turn back. The living room was vast and silent enough to hear my own heartbeat. Marble floors, luxurious leather chairs, wall paintings probably worth millions. The old man was already seated in an armchair, holding a glass of wine as if certain I would come. His eyes met mine, and I felt everything had been orchestrated from the start, like a chess game, and I was the pawn being advanced. "Hello, Owen. Please sit," he said, voice deep and warm, without surprise. I sat down, hands clenched, trying to stay calm. "Who are you? How did you know I'd come?" I asked directly, no beating around the bush. He smiled faintly. "I'm Raymond Parker, owner of this mansion, and I knew you'd come because I saw curiosity in you, the thing that drives people forward." Raymond Parker. The name sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it. Perhaps some billionaire hotel chain owner. He didn't leave me puzzled long. "The incident at the diner the other day was just a test, Owen. I wanted to see your attitude and character." I blinked, trying to comprehend. "A test for me? You mean not tipping?" He nodded, eyes sparkling. "Exactly. I observed you closely. How you served under pressure, handled difficult customers, and especially how you reacted to no tip. No irritation, no obvious disappointment. A rare professionalism in a place like your diner." His words warmed me, but also raised suspicion. Who tests strangers like that? "Why me? Why come to my diner?" Raymond leaned back, speaking slowly. "I own a chain of 5-star restaurants and hotels across America. I always scout talent myself, not from schools, but from real life. You have potential." Then he got to the offer. "I'm inviting you to work for me, starting as a premium server, then manager if you prove yourself." I was stunned, mouth agape, hardly believing my ears. Such a huge opportunity from a no-tip meal? "Are you joking? I'm just a diner waiter. No degree, no experience in fancy places like that." Raymond didn't answer immediately. He looked at me for a moment, then asked calmly, "How much do you earn per month right now?" I hesitated a second, then answered honestly, "About $2,000 a month," I said slowly. "Working for family, so it's not really a proper salary. Enough to live, the rest is duty." He shook his head. "No need for that. Starting salary, $10,000 a month, 5 times your current income, full benefits, housing, transportation, training. Just start right away. $10,000. The figure echoed in my head, making my heart race. My current pay was barely $2,000, scraping by. But precisely because of that, everything felt too fast, too unnatural. "Why me? Is there something shady?" I asked bluntly, voice trembling despite myself. Raymond showed no offense. He calmly replied there was nothing shady. He simply saw rare sincerity in me. Then he paused, adding that my caution was reasonable. Take time to think, as time was limited and this opportunity wouldn't come again. I stood, mind reeling. He shook my hand warmly. "I hope to see you again, Owen." Leaving the mansion, I stepped out the gate into the chilly evening wind, mind still in turmoil from what had just happened. The taxi waited by the road. I got in the back seat after hesitating a few seconds, watching Beverly Hills recede through the window as the car pulled away. Inside me was a mix of allure from the prospect of a life-changing future and vague fear before a door just cracked open, where one step through could make my familiar life vanish in ways I'd never imagined. Everything sounded like a dream, but also like a sophisticated scam. I wondered if I was being drawn into a dangerous game. The sea breeze blew through the taxi's window crack, carrying the salty scent, but it did nothing to ease the rising unease in my chest. I clutched the note tightly in my pocket as if it were the only proof of that bizarre encounter. The car stopped in front of my parents' small house in a modest neighborhood where weathered wooden fences and overgrown yards were familiar sights from my childhood. It was late, but the living room light was still on. Perhaps they were watching TV or balancing the diner's books. I got out, paid the driver, and took a deep breath before knocking. My heart pounded as if I were about to confess some major wrongdoing. The door opened, and my father, Dennis Adams, stood there, face furrowed under the yellowish light. He wore an old t-shirt, cigarette in hand, the acrid smoke wafting out. "Where'd you go today, asking to leave early?" His voice was sharp right from the start, as always. My mother, Claire Adams, appeared behind him, scarf still draped over her shoulders, eyes narrowing in surprise. "Do you know how short-staffed we were because you left early?" she asked, her tone already laced with irritation. I knew what they were thinking. I'd abandoned my shift, leaving the diner understaffed. That was the greatest sin in this family. The diner was everything, our livelihood, our legacy. I stepped inside, closed the door, and tried to keep my voice calm. "I have something important to discuss with you both. It's not about the diner. It's about my future." They exchanged glances, then led me to the living room. The house was unchanged. Worn sofa, wooden table cluttered with bills, lingering smell of leftover food from the kitchen. We sat down, and tension filled the air immediately. My dad lit another cigarette, inhaling deeply. "Spit it out. You left mid-shift to come here, so it's not minor. But if you're thinking of quitting the diner, forget it. I won't allow it." My mom nodded, a hint of worry in her eyes. I took a deep breath and began telling the story from start to finish. The wealthy old man appearing at the diner, the convoy of Mercedes, the meal with no tip, the mysterious note, the appointment at the Beverly Hills mansion, the name Raymond Parker, and the strange test. I paused briefly before continuing, trying to stay composed. He offered me a job as a server at a very upscale hotel in his chain. The words had barely left my mouth when my dad erupted, voice harsh. "A server? You'd leave our family diner to work for strangers?" He slammed his hand on the table. "Some random old man shows up once, summons you to his fancy house, and now offers you a job at a luxury place? It screams trouble. You think they really need you? Or are they just using you?" My mom couldn't stay calm either, her voice sharp and rapid. "Exactly. Do you even know who he is to follow him like that? The world's full of scams. Besides, if you don't take care of the family diner, who will? We're getting old. We can't handle everything." The living room atmosphere grew instantly tense. I sat quietly, listening to each word, familiar with the feeling of being burdened by responsibility. "I'm just saying he offered," I replied softly. "I haven't accepted." "You're right not to," my dad growled. "Don't chase pipe dreams. Working at our diner is tough but secure. Better than serving strangers. One day you're in, the next you're out." My mom nodded in agreement, eyes calculating. "It's the same anywhere. Serving is serving. Fancy or not, it's just wage work." I was silent for a few seconds. Then I continued slowly, weighing each word. "Anyway, he mentioned $10,000 a month. That's not nothing." The room suddenly went quiet. My dad froze mid-sentence. My mom turned to him, eyes widening slightly. "What did you just say? $10,000 a month?" she repeated, no longer sharp. I nodded. "With housing, transportation, and training provided. No degree required." My dad cleared his throat, his tone noticeably softening. If that's the case, and it's not insignificant, rich people do test others like that. My mom immediately shifted tone, asking rapidly, 10,000. How much could you send home each month? The diner's struggling with money we could renovate. Does it include insurance benefits? They started talking to each other quickly and naturally, as if I weren't there anymore. If Owen sends 7,000 or 8,000 home monthly, that'd be fine. Yeah, working at a big place, meeting important people. Maybe later he could bring customers to our diner. The initial opposition vanished completely, replaced by familiar calculations. I sat quietly listening, realizing what had changed their minds wasn't what I'd do, but how much money I'd bring in. They quickly agreed. Go ahead and accept, son. An opportunity like this won't come twice. Call him tomorrow, don't let it slip. I sat there watching them, a strange sadness rising. What weighed on me most wasn't their sudden attitude shift. I was used to their pragmatism, but that they never asked if I really wanted it. Not one question. What do you think? Do you like it? Are you scared? Just money and family benefits. I nodded in agreement, not wanting to cause conflict. I was accustomed to putting family needs first, since I was 10, working at the diner without complaint. Yes, I'll think about it and accept. They smiled, patted my shoulder, then started advising. Remember to be polite, don't offend him. Build a good relationship, maybe it'll help the family later. And send money home regularly. I listened, heart heavy. Leaving the house, the night wind felt colder. I walked away with mixed feelings, half resentful realizing the family only thought of gains, half hopeful thinking of the new world, where perhaps I could finally live for myself. The days following the conversation with my parents passed in restless nights. My mind spun between two worlds. One, the familiar diner with its smells of grease and shouting voices. The other, Raymond's promise of a lavish mansion and a life-changing opportunity. I was afraid, truly afraid. Afraid that if I accepted, I'd lose myself in the upper-class world I knew nothing about. But in the end, hope prevailed. I took out the note and called the phone number Raymond had given me before I left the mansion. His voice on the other end was calm, as if he'd been expecting the call for a long time. Owen, I'm glad you made the right decision. Shall we start tomorrow? I'll make the arrangements. The next morning, a gleaming black car was waiting outside my small apartment. The driver, in a suit, opened the door politely. Mr. Adams, Mr. Parker sent me to pick you up. I got in, heart pounding, watching Santa Monica recede in the rearview mirror. The car glided smoothly through upscale streets, stopping in front of a 5-star hotel in the Parker Resorts chain. A towering glass building shimmering with people in suits and evening gowns coming and going. I swallowed hard and stepped into the grand lobby. The scent of orchids filled the air, marble floors gleamed, and uniformed staff smiled welcomingly. This was the kind of place I'd only seen in movies, where one meal cost what I used to earn in a week. My first day on the job left me completely overwhelmed. The HR manager, a middle-aged woman named Ms. Elena, gave me a tour. This is the main kitchen, preparing meals for 500 guests daily. Operations are strictly regulated. Everything must be precise to the second. I stared at the chefs in white uniforms, knives flashing under lights, modern machines humming. Unlike the family diner, where everything was chaotic and improvised, here discipline was military. Exact timing, absolute cleanliness, and customers truly treated as royalty. Your position is premium server in the main restaurant, but Mr. Parker instructed us to keep a close eye on you, Elena said, eyes flickering with curiosity. I nodded, trying to hide my trembling, but the surprises didn't stop at the job. After my first shift, Elena took me to a luxury apartment just a few blocks from the hotel. This is your accommodation, courtesy of Mr. Parker. I stepped inside, mouth agape. Spacious, modern furnishings, fully equipped kitchen, bedroom with a king-size bed and ocean view. The fridge was stocked, a large screen TV, even a private washer-dryer. Far beyond what I'd imagined for benefits, my old perks were just leftover diner food. Why was he so generous? I reassured myself. Probably standard policy for new hires in big corporations. Don't overthink it, Owen. Every morning, a private car arrived on time. The driver greeted me like family. Good morning, Mr. Adams. Nice weather today, isn't it? The treatment made me feel cared for like a relative, not a brand new employee. At first, I was awkward, but I grew used to it. The early days of work were hell. The pressure was immense. The hotel hosted hundreds of wealthy guests, business people to celebrities, each with demanding requests. The steak must be medium rare exactly, not overcooked by 5 seconds, one guest snapped. The pace was relentless, carrying heavy trays, rushing through the grand hall, memorizing every order detail. I often felt overwhelmed, sweating profusely, realizing the vast gap between a modest diner and a luxury operation. At the old place, mistakes could be laughed off. Here, one small error could cost your job. But I didn't give up. Drawing on the confidence built from years of waitering at the diner, where I'd learned to handle difficult customers with a smile, I gradually found my rhythm. I performed well, serving quickly, politely, remembering regular guests' names. My direct supervisor, a guy named Mark, praised me. You're doing great, Owen. Unlike most new hires, you're very quick on your feet. Those compliments warmed me, like a tonic amid the pressure storm. After a few weeks, Raymond appeared at the hotel. He observed from afar, then called me into his private office. You're doing well. I've decided to promote you to assistant operations manager. I was stunned. So soon, sir, he smiled. Because you deserve it. The management team agrees and staff support it. Keep proving your ability. I was both surprised and pressured by the new responsibility. No longer just serving, now I supervised shifts, handled complaints, even joined strategy meetings. I realized this wasn't just a job opportunity. It felt like Raymond was investing in me personally. In rare downtime or breaks, he often appeared. How's the work, Owen? He'd ask over coffee. I shared struggles, pressure from VIP guests, exhaustion from long shifts. He listened, offering specific advice. When a guest is difficult, remember they're stressed, not hating you. And rest, don't burn out. His words were practical, like a father advising his son. He invited me to meals several times, not in the hotel restaurant, but in private rooms or at the mansion. During those meals, he shared stories piecemeal. Starting his business from nothing, lonely life after losing his wife, a past full of mistakes. Not in order, jumping to stocks, then European trips. I listened, feeling closer. Over time, his questions deepened. How's your family? What was your childhood like? Were your years growing up in Santa Monica happy? I shared hesitantly at first. The diner, strict parents, no playful childhood. He nodded, eyes distant as if comparing to something. His concern went beyond boss-employee. I felt warmth. For the first time, someone truly listening, not just giving orders, but also confusion. Why spend time on me? Discreetly asking colleagues, I learned, private apartment and dedicated car. No one else gets that. Mr. Parker treats you specially. Suspicion grew. What was his real motive? What did he want from me? Yet his sincerity, no ulterior demands, just listening, made me feel valued for the first time, not as a mere worker. I realized I was being drawn into a deeper connection with Raymond. Unclear what kind, but both wary and unable to turn away. Each evening back at the apartment, gazing at the ocean view, I thought, life has changed, but at what cost? Time passed quickly in this new world. Weeks blended into months, and I gradually grew accustomed to the upscale lifestyle I had only dared to dream of before. The role of assistant operations manager kept me busy from morning till night, but it also brought a satisfaction I had never experienced at the family diner. I learned to handle meetings with major partners, supervise staff teams, and even participate in planning branch expansions. Raymond still appeared regularly, quietly and patiently, like a mentor always watching my every step. But as time went on, that attention made it increasingly hard for me to feel at ease. Why was he devoting so much time to me? The shared meals grew longer. His fragmented stories about his past, things lost and never spoken of, all seemed to be leading me towards something greater than what met the eye. I tried to brush off the feeling, burying myself in work to avoid overthinking. But deep down, I knew clearly. An invisible boundary was gradually being drawn closer, and nothing was as simple as I kept reassuring myself. One Friday evening, after a long, exhausting shift, I returned to the apartment as night had already fallen. The strong sea breeze blew through the balcony, carrying the rhythmic sound of waves. I took off my suit jacket, brewed a cup of black coffee, and sat on the sofa gazing out at the dark ocean. My mind was still swirling with today's revenue figures, but mixed in were images of Raymond from the afternoon meeting. He had looked at me longer than usual, his eyes sparkling with an indescribable sadness. I'm just imagining it, I told myself, trying to shake it off. The doorbell rang unexpectedly, startling me. Who could it be at this hour? I glanced at the clock. 9 p.m. Not delivery, not colleagues. They knew I preferred quiet after work. I went to the door and froze. Raymond Parker stood there, wearing a long overcoat, his face pale under the hallway light. No bodyguards, no gleaming car, just him alone, like an ordinary old man. Raymond, it's late. Why are you here? I stammered, surprised but trying to remain polite. He smiled weakly. Sorry for not calling ahead, Owen. I need to talk. May I come in? His voice was low but with a slight tremble. I nodded and opened the door wider. Of course, please come in. Would you like something? Coffee or water? He shook his head, stepped into the living room, his eyes scanning the space. The apartment he himself had arranged for me. The silence was stifling. I sat opposite him on the chair, gripping my coffee cup tightly to hide my nervousness. Raymond sat in deep thought for quite a while, his gaze heavy, unlike his usual calm demeanor. He looked out at the sea as if struggling internally. I didn't dare speak, just waited, heart pounding. The room's atmosphere thickened, broken only by the howling wind on the balcony and the ticking clock. Finally, he spoke, voice slow as if weighing every word. Owen, I came here for an important reason, a truth I've kept from you from the beginning. My heart beat harder. The truth? I thought of everything. Maybe he wanted to fire me or reveal a business secret. But no, his eyes were too heavy, too personal. After a long pause, he looked straight into mine. I am your biological grandfather. His words struck like lightning. I froze, ears ringing, mouth agape but speechless. Grandfather? Impossible. My first reaction was to scoff. My grandfather? You must be mistaken. I'm Owen Adams. My parents are Dennis and Claire. I don't have a grandfather like you. What he said was beyond any imaginable possibility. I grew up in Santa Monica, in an ordinary family with no connection to billionaires or hotel empires. Raymond shook his head, voice firm. No mistake, Owen. Everything has been thoroughly verified. Documents, DNA tests, all of it. Let me explain. He took a deep breath and began recounting the past, voice low as if confessing. Years ago, I had a son named Jonathan Parker. He was your biological father. Jonathan fell in love with a woman from a different social class, an ordinary woman who worked at a beachside diner. I opposed it fiercely. I disowned Jonathan, cut off all contact as punishment. I thought he would return, obey me, but he didn't. His voice broke, eyes reddening. I sat motionless, listening as if in a dream. Jonathan Parker, biological father. Everything spun. He continued, voice trembling. Only a few months ago, when old age brought regret, did I start searching for Jonathan again. Hired detectives, dug through records, and I discovered my son committed suicide 28 years ago. After being abandoned by that woman, your mother, Claire. She left Jonathan when he had nothing left. No money from the family. Jonathan fell into despair and... He paused, wiping tears. I felt a chill, breathing rapidly. He committed suicide because my mother abandoned him? Impossible. But Raymond didn't stop. I blame myself, Owen. My cruelty and stubbornness indirectly drove Jonathan to his death. I killed my own son." His words cut into my heart like a knife. He said finding me wasn't about wealth or reputation, he had plenty, but a desire to atone. "You are my grandson, Parker Blood. I want to bring you back to your real family to make up for what was lost." Hearing the entire story, I couldn't believe my ears. My mind went blank, unable to speak or ask more questions. Everything collapsed. My parents weren't my biological ones. My father was Jonathan Parker, a wealthy man disowned. The shock was overwhelming, like a bomb exploding in my head. I only managed enough composure to politely ask Raymond to leave. "Please go home. I need to be alone to think." My voice trembled, hands gripping the chair arms. Raymond knew this truth was hard to accept. He looked at me silently for a long time, eyes full of regret and affection without reproach or pressure. "I understand, Owen. Think it over carefully. I'll wait." He stood, walked to the door, and left calmly, leaving me in the spacious apartment that suddenly felt terrifyingly lonely. The door closed and I collapsed to the floor, mind in chaos. Who am I? What is my life? Anticipation and fear surged, like standing at the edge of an abyss. I sat there on the cold marble floor, back leaning against the sofa, eyes staring blankly at the balcony where the night sea was roaring. The crashing waves sounded like whispers from the past, but now they felt like mockery. Jonathan Parker, my biological father, committed suicide because he was abandoned, and my mother was the one who drove him to despair? Everything was hazy, like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. I tried to piece it together, the childhood years in Santa Monica where I always felt out of place, like an extra piece in the family puzzle. My parents, or Dennis and Claire, had never hugged me tightly, never said, "Son, we're proud of you," without adding a reminder about the diner. They always treated me like a tool, an extra pair of hands. Now what? If Raymond was telling the truth, was it all just lies? I shook my head, tears streaming down unnoticed. The more I thought, the more tangled it became. I couldn't resolve it alone. The answers weren't here in this luxurious apartment with its glittering ocean view. They were in the place I'd lived almost my entire life, my parents' house. I stood up, legs trembling, grabbed the car keys Raymond had arranged for me. The sleek black sedan was parked in the building's garage, engine purring smoothly as I started it. Late at night, the Los Angeles streets were empty, only occasional cars passing. I drove towards Santa Monica, hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles whitened. The night wind rushed through the cracked window, carrying the familiar salty sea smell, but now it made me nauseous. Anticipation surged. What would they say? Deny it or confess? I imagined everything. Maybe they'd laugh, call me crazy, or get angry and chase me away. The car passed familiar streets, past the now dark diner, then stopped in front of my parents' small house. The living room light was still on. They often stayed up late balancing books. I took a deep breath, turned off the engine and got out, heart pounding like a drum, legs heavy as I knocked. The door opened and Claire, my mother, stood there, eyes narrowing in surprise. She wore an old robe, hair disheveled. "Owen, what are you doing here at this hour? Is something wrong?" she asked, voice mixing worry and irritation. Dennis appeared behind her, still holding a newspaper, face furrowed. "Why are you here so late? How's the new job? Have you sent this month's salary yet? The diner needs capital." The questions poured out like a familiar reflex. No one asked if I was okay. I stepped inside, closed the door, and didn't answer. The living room felt stifling, lingering smell of leftover food from the kitchen, the worn sofa where I dozed off after long shifts. I sat down, hands trembling slightly. "I have something to ask you both," I said slowly. "It's not about money or the job." They paused. They exchanged glances, then sat opposite me, eyes full of suspicion. "Whatever it is, spit it out," Dennis growled. "Don't beat around the bush." I took a deep breath and began recounting what Raymond had said in the apartment. About the name Jonathan Parker. About the opposed relationship, the disownment, and the death 28 years ago. I didn't embellish, just repeated exactly what I'd heard. When I finished, the room fell into heavy silence. He said he's my grandfather, I continued, voice trembling but resolute. And Mom abandoned my biological father when he had nothing left. I want you to explain. Is it true? For a moment, both froze, their faces visibly paled. Then the silence shattered. Dennis slammed his hand on the table. Are you crazy? He shouted. You believe that nonsense. The old man made it all up. You're too gullible, Owen. He stood abruptly, pacing back and forth, voice rising as if volume could cover something. The world's full of idle people inventing stories to manipulate others. Claire quickly shifted tone, moving closer to me. He's right, son, she said rapidly, voice high and urgent. That man's dangerous. Rich people are never simple. Quit the job immediately, cut contact. Come back to the diner with us. It's safer here. She grabbed my hand. It was ice cold. Her eyes darted away. Don't let fabricated stories ruin our family. I pulled my hand back. If it's fabricated, I asked, how does he know such precise details? How does he know I've never been treated like a real son in this house? Dennis paused for a beat. Then he roared, What are you saying? I raised you all these years and now you bite back? Raised? I stood up. Or made me work from dawn to dusk. I was always the one to carry the load, fill the gaps, endure. Claire interjected, voice sharper. How can you say that? We struggled for whom? For you. I spoke quickly, breathing heavily. Why, from childhood till now, have I always felt like I don't belong here? Why was I never loved unconditionally, only mentioned when money was needed? Dennis stepped closer, pointing in my face. You want to destroy this family? Just because of a stranger's words? I stood still, heart racing, throat tight. I don't want to destroy anything, I said, voice lowering but firm. I just want the truth. The room sank into heavy silence again. No one answered. And that very silence made me realize there were things they dared not or did not want to say. Just then the door opened without a knock, a soft creak, and Raymond appeared in the doorway, standing silently like a ghost. I froze, mouth agape. Raymond, how are you here? Had he followed me? Or guessed? Claire and Dennis went deathly pale, as if seeing a specter. Dennis stammered, Who are you? Why are you in my house? Get out now. But Raymond didn't flinch. He placed a hand on my shoulder, gentle but firm, as if protecting me. Then he slowly advanced toward Claire and Dennis, demeanor calm but radiating authority, like a judge. I am Raymond Parker, and I know everything. No more pretending. His voice was steady, but each word cut like a blade. He stated he had investigated thoroughly, hired detectives, gathered evidence from old records, witnesses, even letters from years ago. You two conspired, planned to approach Jonathan, my son. Claire, you targeted him at the diner, pretending love to extract money from my family. Dennis, you were the accomplice, helping her scheme for a better life. I stood there, ears ringing, watching Claire bow her head, Dennis clench his fists. Raymond continued, But when I disowned Jonathan and cut off finances, you immediately turned your backs. You calculated to abandon my son, leaving him alone in despair. You contributed to driving him to madness and then to suicide. His voice broke, but he maintained control. Without pausing, Raymond pointed out how I'd never been loved in childhood. Owen was treated as a money-making tool. Heavy labor from a young age, no play, no proper education. You used him to compensate for your failed scheme years ago. I recalled. Starting waitering at 10, scolded for slowness, never a birthday gift. Now it all connected. Raymond concluded, Let Owen go. Let him return to his real family. Otherwise, I'll take it to court with all evidence. Handwritten letters, bank records, witness statements. Under that immense pressure, Claire and Dennis completely crumbled. Claire collapsed first, knees hitting the floor, hands trembling as she clutched Raymond's coat hem. Tears streamed uncontrollably. Please don't do that, she sobbed. We were wrong. We admit everything. But Owen is our son. No matter what, we raised him. Her voice shattered, pleading and desperate, clinging to the last thread. Please give us a way out. Don't take it to court. We couldn't bear it. Dennis stood frozen for seconds, then lost his tough facade. He stepped forward shakily, voice hoarse. He spoke, almost begging. Don't sue. We accept everything. Any conditions. No disputes, no demands, no more appearances. He turned to me, eyes panicked, voice lowering. Owen, I raised you anyway. Forgive me this once. I beg you. The pleas poured out in the stifling room. They promised, admitted fault, ready to give up everything just to hold on to faint hope. I stood among the three, motionless. My heart felt squeezed, then shattered as the past was stripped bare before my eyes. The initial anticipation vanished, replaced by a deep, throbbing pain that made breathing difficult, as if someone had torn open my most vulnerable part. I said nothing, just silently looked at them, the people I'd once called parents, now heartbreakingly strangers. Claire knelt there, tears streaming down her wrinkled face, stammering pleas. Owen, forgive your mother. We're family. Dennis stood beside her, face ashen, hands trembling as if wanting to reach for me but not daring. Raymond remained silent, his hand still on my shoulder like a wall shielding me between past and present. The living room air was stifling, the lingering smell of leftover food from the kitchen mixing with Dennis's stale cigarette smoke. Everything around me felt surreal, like watching a tragic film where I was the protagonist. I muttered disjointed words. How did it come to this? Why was everything a lie? My voice broke, uncontrollable. The pain surged too quickly, too intensely, overwhelming my composure. Suddenly I bolted out, ignoring Raymond's call behind me. Owen, wait! The door slammed open, cold night wind slapping my face, but I didn't stop. I ran to the car, hands shaking as I unlocked it, then sped off in panic. The engine roared, the car hurtling down familiar Santa Monica streets, streetlights blurring like ghostly streaks. I floored the accelerator as if stopping even a second longer would cause everything inside me to collapse completely. Heart racing wildly, breathing ragged, tears blurring my vision. This isn't real. It isn't real, I muttered, but deep down I knew. It all fit. The diner, the labor-filled childhood, their coldness now forming a complete picture but a horrifying one. The car passed the beach, waves crashing like mocking laughter, and I nearly swerved off the road several times. Anticipation peaked, mixed with fear. Where am I going? What now? My life, it turned out, was just one enormous lie. I thought of Evan Brooks, my closest friend from high school, the only one who'd never abandoned me. His place was in the Santa Monica suburbs, a small but cozy apartment where we'd once sat drinking beer and sharing life stories. I drove there, screeching to a stop outside, legs weak as I got out. I knocked and Evan opened the door, sleepy-eyed but quickly alert, seeing my devastated state, eyes hollow like a lost soul. Owen, God, you look like hell. Come in. He pulled me inside without many questions, quietly setting up the living room. Really just the sofa with blankets and pillows for some privacy. Rest first. You can talk tomorrow, Evan said warmly, pouring me a glass of water. I nodded and lay down, but that night I barely slept. The room was pitch dark, only the howling wind outside the window and childhood memories kept flooding back in the silence like an old film rewinding. I recalled the years of working from a very young age. At 8, I was already behind the diner counter, wiping tables after school. You have to help with the family business, Dennis always said, voice brooking no argument. I had no choice or refusal. It was a default duty like eating or resting. Summer afternoons, friends played on the beach while I was in the sweltering kitchen carrying trays for customers. Grease smells clung to my skin, hands calloused from heavy trays. Once I spilled 5 glasses of water from a tray and Claire scolded, "Useless! You do that and the diner will go broke?" I cried silently but didn't argue. Endless days without rest, shifts from morning to late night, legs aching, back sore. I remembered evenings of blame and scolding for minor mistakes, forgetting salt in a salad or being slow when called. "You're a burden, Owen. Try harder," Dennis yelled, and I always bowed my head thinking I wasn't good enough. Throughout childhood, I was never loved unconditionally. No warm hugs after long days, no praise for effort, just duties and obligations. Work, don't daydream. I was never protected. Once yelled at by a customer, Claire said, "Don't talk back to customers, the customer is king." I grew up feeling I had to prove my worth through labor, through money brought in. For years, I believed it was because I wasn't good enough, didn't try hard enough, wasn't deserving of kindness. I blamed myself. If I do better, they'll love me more. But now, with the pieces fitting together, I realized the painful truth. The problem was never me. It was that I was never truly seen as their son. I was the result of a scam, a remnant from an abandoned biological father. They kept me to compensate, to work, not out of love. Thinking of my own fate and the biological father I'd never met, Jonathan Parker, I couldn't hold back tears. For the first time in years of enduring, I broke down crying in the dark room. In my mind appeared an image of a young man, perhaps resembling me, tall, blue-eyed, sitting alone by the beach thinking of the unborn child. Tears soaked the pillow, my body shaking. Evan heard and quietly entered, sitting beside me. He said nothing at first, just patted my shoulder. Then, as I recounted haltingly about Raymond, the truth, Claire and Dennis, Evan listened, eyes full of empathy. "You don't have to pay for others' mistakes your whole life, Owen. They chose that path, not you. You deserve a better life." Through that long night, Evan comforted and gave sincere advice. "You've endured enough. Now it's time to let go. You owe them nothing, no saving them, no fake harmony." His words were like a light in the darkness. I gradually understood I owed nothing more to the old family. No need to keep enduring for false peace, that which had drained me since childhood. As dawn neared, faint light filtering through the window, I made a life-changing decision. I would return to Raymond, accept the truth, and step out of the past. Ready to choose the path I truly belonged to, a new life, full of challenges, but at least real. Evan looked at me, his eyes red from staying up all night, but with a gentle smile. "You did the right thing, Owen. Go, don't look back." I hugged him tightly, then left the apartment as the sun was rising. Driving back to Raymond's mansion in Beverly Hills, my hands still trembled slightly, but not from fear anymore, from anticipation of what was to come. The morning Los Angeles streets were crowded, cars jammed together, but my mind was only on him. Raymond Parker, my biological grandfather. I wasn't returning for wealth or status, I was returning to face the truth, to end the half-lived life where I'd always felt like an outsider. No more pretending, no more enduring. This was the moment I chose myself. The car stopped at the tall iron gate. The guards recognized me immediately and opened it without question. I stepped into the mansion, the familiar atmosphere with manicured gardens and the trickling fountain. Raymond was sitting in the living room holding a coffee cup, gazing out the window as if waiting. When he saw me, he stood at once, his aged face briefly lighting up. "I'm glad you've come back," he said, voice slightly trembling. "So you've decided?" I nodded, surprised at how calm my own voice sounded. "Yes, I've thought it through carefully. I want to come back and accept this true identity." He stepped forward and hugged me tightly. It was the first hug I'd received from an elder without conditions or demands. He spoke, voice deepening with emotion. "Thank you. Thank you for giving me a chance to make up for what was lost." He released me, his eyes growing more resolute. "I'll arrange everything. It's time the whole family knows who you are." Raymond acted swiftly as if he'd been prepared for years. He made calls, sent messages, and within days a gathering was organized at the main mansion. I was so nervous I barely slept for nights. What will they think of me? I wondered, lying in bed in the luxury apartment staring at the night sea. The Parker family, wealthy, powerful people I'd only known from the media. Would they welcome me or scorn me? The day arrived. I wore the gray suit Raymond had given me, hands clenched as the car drove me there. The mansion was more crowded than ever, luxury cars filling the driveway, laughter and conversation echoing from the grand room. The extended family had gathered in full, familiar faces from the business world, close relatives from everywhere. They arrived with curiosity and caution, eyes scanning as if evaluating a new deal. The large meeting room had a long wooden table with fresh flowers and wine, the atmosphere heavy from the start. Raymond sat at the head, exuding authority as always. I stood beside him, heart pounding, sweat beading on my forehead. "Thank you all for coming," Raymond began, voice resonant. "Today is important. I want to introduce Owen Adams, my biological grandson, son of Jonathan Parker." The room fell into heavy silence, as if someone had muted all sound. Then whispers spread. "Jonathan? He disappeared long ago. Jonathan had a son? Why now?" Scrutinizing eyes turned toward me from all sides, doubt, curiosity, even hostility. I stood straight, trying to stay calm, but my mind was chaotic. Do they think I'm a fraud? Stephen Parker, my uncle, Jonathan's brother, sat to Raymond's right, face stern, eyes cold. He maintained a detached attitude, dropping veiled remarks. Jonathan once betrayed the family, leaving on his own for an unworthy woman. Now his supposed son appears. There must be a reason. His tone was sarcastic, like a challenge. Andrew Parker, Stephen's son, my cousin, younger, around 35, in a glossy suit, openly doubted. What's his background? How do you prove it? Why bring him in now? Or is it to divide the inheritance? His words cut like a knife, stirring more murmurs. Others in the family quickly divided into factions. Some sided with Stephen, nodding agreement, whispering among themselves, eyes wary as if I were an intruder in their territory. A few showed sympathy, pitying glances mixed with murmurs of sorrow that I'd lost my father so young. The rest chose silence, sitting back to observe, eyes cold and curious, like watching a tense drama and waiting to see who would take the final stage. Raymond stood. The room quieted instantly. He spoke, voice low but decisive. "Enough. This is my personal decision. Owen is Parker blood. That has been confirmed." He paused, eyes slowly sweeping the room. "I will protect and support him. Anyone who disagrees can pursue it legally." The air froze. Whispers ceased under the weight of his authority, which needed no raised voice. The room went completely silent, only breathing audible. I realized in that moment my arrival had deepened a long-hidden rift in the family. The Parkers, outwardly united but inwardly full of conflicts over power and inheritance. Stephen and Andrew saw me as a potential threat, someone who could take their assumed positions and rights. Stephen gripped his wine glass tightly, eyes flashing anger. Andrew smirked, whispering something to his father. The gathering ended in tense atmosphere, people leaving with forced smiles. Raymond patted my shoulder. "Don't worry, grandson. They need time to adjust." But I knew a storm was coming. After the meeting, my work and life faced constant obstacles. At the hotel, my decisions were interfered with. Projects I proposed were unreasonably delayed, reports rejected for vague reasons. I recognized subtle internal sabotage, anonymous critical emails, sudden meetings excluding me. Stephen, with his high position on the board, was surely behind it. Once, in a meeting, Andrew openly challenged, "What experience do you have to climb to management, or just relying on Grandpa?" His words made my face burn, but I stayed calm, replying, "I'll prove it with results." In those moments, I wanted to give up, wanted to return to the simple old life, the modest diner, long shifts, but at least I knew who I was without facing scrutinizing eyes or hidden schemes. One night, lying in the apartment, gazing at the sea, tears streamed. What am I doing? Why endure this? Anticipation surged, mixed with exhaustion. But each time I saw Raymond stand up for me, from private discreet meetings outright rejecting criticisms to defending me before the board, I chose to keep going. He was the only one who truly saw me as family, unconditionally, without calculation. Just warm hugs and advice from genuine care. "You're my only hope, Owen. Don't give up," he said, eyes shining with rare faith. I understood I couldn't turn away, not out of duty, but because I didn't want to disappoint the man who'd spent his life searching for me and atoning for his own past. 2 years have passed since the day I officially entered the Parker family, and everything has changed in ways I could never have anticipated. Time flowed like a relentless river, sweeping away the initial days of bewilderment and conflict, leaving behind a tougher Owen, but also a more weary one. I still work in one of the family's hotel chains, but my role is no longer assistant operations manager. Raymond, my grandfather, gradually entrusted me with greater responsibilities. I quietly took on key operational projects, from restructuring the online booking system to negotiating contracts with international partners. Endless meetings, constant business trips, and decisions made under pressure. All of it matured me rapidly. Raymond placed increasing trust in me, often calling me into his private office to discuss strategic decisions. "You have vision, Owen," he said, voice deep and full of pride, not from books but forged in real life. Through those conversations, I gradually sensed a quiet but clear handover, as if he were preparing to place a heavier burden on my shoulders. Not just work, but the future of everything he had built. Yet alongside this advancement was Raymond's increasingly evident decline. His health deteriorated quickly, sporadic heart pains, mornings waking with a pallid face, and periods of lucidity growing shorter. He began forgetting employees' names, mixing up dates, but with me he remained sharp. I saw his fatigue, his once deep blue eyes now clouded with age. "I'm getting old, Owen," he whispered once, hand trembling as he held a glass of water. It pained me, but I hid it. In those 2 years, I was not just his grandson, I was his companion, listening to him recount the past about Jonathan, my father, with a voice full of regret. "You and your father are alike, Owen. Strong, but lonely." Those stories brought us closer, but also frightened me, afraid of the day he would leave. In his final months, I stayed by his side constantly. Setting aside work, I moved back to the mansion to care for him. Every meal, I cooked chicken soup myself because he couldn't swallow solids. Every sleep, I sat by his bed holding his hand when he drifted. He shared fragmented memories, his impoverished childhood, building the empire from nothing, his mistakes with Jonathan. "Don't repeat my errors, Owen. Know how to love. Don't be stubborn." Those words fell slowly, like a final admonition, choking me up. I said nothing, just silently etched every word in my mind, feeling as if I were accepting an invisible burden I couldn't refuse. Each passing night was filled with anticipation. I lay there listening to his every breath, wondering if he would wake tomorrow, or if this was the last time I'd hear his voice. One quiet morning, as the sun was just rising through the window, Raymond passed away in my arms. He exhaled faintly, squeezed my hand lightly, then fell silent. I sat there holding him, tears streaming unnoticed. An irreplaceable void, losing the only person who had truly protected and loved me. He was the one who found me, brought me back, and now he was gone, leaving me alone among the wolves of the family. The funeral was solemn, private, and proper at the family cemetery with white flowers and mournful violin music. The entire extended family and business associates gathered. Stephen and Andrew stood far off, faces impassive. Other relatives whispered among themselves. The atmosphere was heavier than ever, not just from grief, but because everyone knew the will was about to be revealed and the inheritance battle was about to begin. A week after the funeral, I received a call from Raymond's personal lawyer, Mr. Jenkins, voice steady. "Mr. Parker, please come to the office this afternoon. The reading of the will." I nodded, but my heart pounded. I had never thought about the assets. I only wished he had lived longer. But now, I had to face it. Arriving at the law office, a modern glass building in downtown Los Angeles, I clearly felt the scrutinizing, suspicious glances directed at me. Stephen and Andrew were there, especially hostile from my uncle and cousin who didn't hide their aggression. Stephen whispered loudly to Andrew, "This kid was favored just because Grandpa was sentimental. What has he contributed?" Andrew nodded. In Grandpa's final years, he was weak, easily manipulated. Their insinuations cut like knives, but I chose silence, maintaining composure. I didn't want to turn the will reading into an open confrontation. I knew words were useless now. Lawyer Jenkins opened the envelope, voice even as he read the contents. The room fell dead silent as he announced, 60% of the entire estate is transferred to Owen Parker, including absolute controlling shares in the Hotel Restaurant Corporation, all key revenue-generating properties, and an independent investment fund in his name. I was stunned by what I received, actual control over the entire empire my grandfather had left behind. My mind reeled. Why did he give me as much as 60%? While the room buzzed, many unable to hide shock and resentment. Stephen angrily slammed the table, face flushed. "This will is invalid." Grandpa was weak and manipulated psychologically by Owen. He challenged the lawyer, but Jenkins calmly replied, "All documents, signatures, and clauses are valid, witnessed by a notary. It cannot be contested." Andrew shifted to threats, eyes flashing anger. "Owen, you should return the assets, unless you want to face serious consequences, lawsuits, media, everything." His words were a warning, chilling the room. I looked at him, voice calm. The will is Grandpa's wish. I respect his wish. But inside, anticipation surged. I knew the storm was coming. From then on, turmoil followed relentlessly. I received anonymous threatening letters. "Get out, asset thief," sent to the office, even my home. Work was obstructed. My decisions delayed at board meetings, minor errors blamed on me, stalling projects. Stephen sued me in court, accusing manipulation of the will while leaking damaging stories to the media. Headlines read, "Mysterious grandson seizes Parker Empire, opportunist exploiting frail grandfather." My image was painted as a fraud, phones ringing nonstop, partners hesitating. Faced with slander and mounting pressure, I chose silence. No media responses, no arguments with Andrew. I focused on work, step by step strengthening internal support, ensuring financial transparency with independent audits, and dismantling covert plans to undermine me. I held private meetings with loyal staff, building alliances. We'll prove it with results. Though temporarily holding ground, the court dismissed Stephen's first lawsuit for lack of evidence. I knew clearly this battle was far from over. Greater challenges lay ahead, perhaps prolonged litigation or darker schemes. Each night I lay awake gazing at the sea from the mansion, heart racing with anticipation. Can I do this? But remembering my grandfather's words, I clenched my fists. The inheritance war, not just about money, but honor, legacy. I was ready to face it. Time passed slowly during the months awaiting the formal inheritance trial. I continued working tirelessly at the corporate headquarters, but the atmosphere around me was heavy, like a dark cloud hanging overhead. At every board meeting, Stephen and Andrew were present, their eyes cutting across me like sharp knives full of hostility. They no longer hid it, the whispers in the hallways, the indirect critical emails about my decisions. I knew they were preparing for a major battle. The media still lurked. The Parker inheritance war, can the mysterious grandson hold on to the empire? Such headlines irritated me, but I chose silence, focusing on strengthening my position. I hired top lawyers, reviewed every document, and mentally prepared for the courtroom. Anticipation surged each morning upon waking. Any new threatening letters today? Any new rumors? But I didn't back down. Grandfather had believed in me, and I would prove him right. The official inheritance dispute trial took place on a chilly autumn morning at the Los Angeles courthouse. It drew massive attention. Reporters crowded outside the doors, cameras flashing, and the business world buzzing with whispers. Raymond's enormous estate, billions of dollars from hotels, real estate, investment funds, combined with long-standing family conflicts, turned the trial into a grand drama. I entered the courtroom in a black suit, hands tightly clutching my briefcase, heart pounding like war drums. Stephen and Andrew sat on the other side, their lawyer, a tall man with a fake smile, looking at me challengingly. Raymond was gone, but his legacy was being torn apart right before my eyes. The judge banged the gavel and the trial began. The atmosphere was so tense I felt hard to breathe, as if every eye was judging me. The lawyer representing Raymond's will, Mr. Jenkins, who had read it earlier, stood first. His voice steady, he presented the full legal basis. The will was drafted 3 years ago when Mr. Raymond Parker was fully lucid. No signs of coercion or external influence. We have video footage of the signing session, with a psychologist confirming his mental state. He displayed documents on the screen, clear signatures, notary witnesses, and medical reports. I sat listening, recalling grandfather. He had drafted the will when I had just joined the family, as if he foresaw everything. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Ms. Harper, added documents confirming legitimate blood ties. DNA tests from 3 independent labs prove Mr. Owen Parker is Mr. Raymond's biological grandson. The grandfather-grandson relationship is undeniable. She presented papers, photos, even hospital records from my birth year. My heart raced faster. This was proof of my existence, of Parker blood in my veins. Next, evidence of my contributions to operations over the years was presented. Ms. Harper detailed. Mr. Owen managed the New York hotel restructuring project, increasing revenue by 25% in his first year. He negotiated international contracts, saving millions. These specific contributions show he is not just a grandson, but a core executive. She showed slides, revenue charts, internal emails, and staff testimonies. I glanced at Stephen. His face paled, but he tried to stay composed. Then records of my care and companionship with Raymond in his final days were presented as proof of genuine bond, not opportunism. Mr. Owen stayed by the bedside, preparing every meal, listening to Mr. Raymond's stories, not for assets. He didn't know about the will then, but out of family affection. She showed medical logs, photos of me holding his hand, and nurse statements. The courtroom atmosphere shifted. Some reporters nodded. The judge listened intently. Stephen's side tried to counter, but faced with the airtight evidence, they couldn't mount convincing arguments. Their lawyer stammered, "Mr. Raymond was weakened in his final years, possibly influenced," but when asked for proof, they offered only vague testimony from a former employee, quickly discredited by Ms. Harper with dismissal records for fraud. Stephen stood face flushed. "This is injustice. The assets belong to those who stood by him from the start." But the judge interrupted. "Silence. We rely on law, not emotion." Andrew whispered to his father, eyes flashing anger. Anticipation peaked in me. Could they turn it around? But no, our evidence was too solid. After deliberation, the court ruled in my favor, officially confirming my legitimate inheritance rights to Raymond's estate. The gavel banged and the room buzzed. I stood, legs weak, tears streaming. I won, but it wasn't joy, just relief. "Grandfather, I've preserved your legacy." Reporters swarmed outside the courthouse, cameras flashing nonstop. "Mr. Parker, how do you feel after today's verdict?" I paused, only faintly smiling. I'm simply honoring my grandfather's wishes. But deep down I knew clearly, this wasn't the end. Stephen and Andrew left with darkened faces, their eyes enough to sense another storm brewing. Sometime later, when things seemed to calm, Dennis and Claire, the people I once called parents, appeared again at my workplace. It was a drizzling afternoon. I was in the corporate headquarters office reviewing financial reports. The secretary called. "2 people want to see you, claiming to be your parents." My heart tightened. I knew they'd come, but not so soon. I let them in. The door closed behind them, and in that moment I saw how much they had changed since the last time. Claire was gaunt, face hollow, eyes swollen as if cried dry. Dennis stood silently behind, head bowed low, hands trembling, clutching an old hat. Before they could sit, they knelt before my desk. Claire spoke first, voice trembling and broken. "I know I have no right to ask anymore. What I did in the past, nothing can justify it. But I beg you, give me a chance to make amends. Just once. We're still family, son." She sobbed, hands clutching the desk edge as if afraid of being pushed away. "I regret it so much, Owen. Truly regret it. I was wrong for so long." Dennis took a deep breath, voice hoarse from holding back. "I was wrong too. I was never a real father. I let money, worries, and selfishness blind me." He bowed lower. "The diner can't hold on anymore. Debt's piling up. Without your help, we'll lose everything." I looked at them for a long time. No anger surged in me, just a cold, clear void, painfully evident. "You came here," I said slowly, each word deliberate. "Not because you miss me, not to ask how I'm doing. You came because I now have position, power, money, things you need." Claire shook her head quickly, tears streaming down her hollow face. "It's not like you think, Owen. I won't deny worrying about the diner, but I worry about you too. I just want to be close to you. Talk like before." I stood, voice still unexpectedly calm. "If it was really for me," I said, "you would have sought me out long ago. Not waiting until I'm in this position, not waiting until it's too late." Dennis looked up, eyes red. "Are you really turning your back on us? After all, we raised you all those years? Those years mean nothing to you?" I breathed deeply, feeling my heartbeat slow. "Precisely because of those years," I replied. "I understand some relationships, even called family, cannot continue if they only bring harm." Claire cried aloud, "I beg you, I can't bear it anymore. If you don't help, I don't know what to hold on to." I shook my head gently, not in anger, but acceptance. "I've thought it through carefully," I said. "It's not that I can't forgive, but I don't want to live in that past anymore. I've let go." I looked straight at them. "I can't help you anymore. And I don't want to prolong this relationship further. Please leave." I called the secretary. As they were escorted out, Claire's sobs echoed behind. "Don't abandon us like this." I didn't turn back. The door closed. I sat down, exhaling slowly. No hatred, no triumph. Just relief, like setting down a burden carried through my entire childhood. From then on, I devoted myself fully to running the empire Raymond left behind. In the early days after winning the lawsuit, I restructured internally, dismissing Stephen's close allies, hiring new talent, making every decision transparent. Gradually, I earned trust from senior leaders. Those once hesitant now nodded agreement in meetings. The staff showed clear respect, not through flattery but through trust and collaboration in work. Over time, the Parker family stabilized after the rifts. Stephen withdrew after the lawsuit defeat, while Andrew no longer openly confronted, maintaining clear distance, cooperating only when duty required. Despite that, the system steadily strengthened, expanding hotel chains to Asia, investing in green technology, operational restructuring. Revenue grew steadily, foundations more solid. For the first time, I no longer felt like an outsider in this family. One afternoon, standing in the office overlooking bustling Beverly Hills streets, I suddenly recalled my entire journey. From the modest Santa Monica diner where I once hustled endlessly carrying trays to lavish mansions, then tense confrontational trials. The wounds, sleepless nights, silent threats, all resurfaced like a long film, not easy to revisit but undeniable. And at the journey's end, I understood family only truly matters when accompanied by love and respect. Not because of blood or name, but how people treat each other in the hardest moments. From that, I realized what I endured never defined me. It didn't speak to my worth, only reflecting the choices, limits, and selfishness of those who caused it. Claire and Dennis chose deception for a better life. Stephen chose envy and hatred to hold power, and I understood I wasn't obligated to repeat any of those choices. Thus I chose to step out of that painful past, not to flee but to protect myself. I believe sometimes leaving isn't selfish but the bravest act to preserve peace and build a worthy life. Standing in this glamorous city for the first time, I no longer felt lost, because I knew clearly who I was, what I'd been through, and where I was headed. 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 Headed.